This is ANN7 Prime. Thank you for joining us. It's just gone 6:30 p.m. Central African Time. My name is Audrey Chimwanda. In our top story at this half hour, the ANC presidential hopeful Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma has expressed worry about the youth of South Africa and the growing unemployment. Speaking to ANN7, NDZ highlighted how there was no safety for the youth in the country, given that there was no grant for the unemployment youth. She pointed out that there was therefore an urgent need to address the growing unemployment and poverty. The country is struggling with a stubbornly high unemployment rate. According to Statistics South Africa, the absolute number of unemployed stands at 6.2 million. Moreover, over 3 million young South Africans between the ages of 15 to 24 are currently unemployed. The nation has the highest ever youth unemployment statistics at 55.9%.
We have probably more people on grants than on employment. And if more and more people are unemployed and more people go into grants, then it means the state will eventually not be able to pay for those grants, not be able to pay for the education, the health, all the things that the state needs to do. So it's very important that these challenges are really addressed. If you look at young people in this country, if you are a child and you don't have parents or parents are not working, there is some grant that you get. If you are old and you don't have a pension from your work, the state gives you a grant. But if you are young, you are youth, you are unemployed, there is no safety net. So it's quite urgent that we address this issue of unemployment, of poverty, so that young people can begin to work. And if you don't pay attention to young people, it means you have no future.
Now let's take a look at the dismal youth unemployment statistics for South Africa. Nearly 3.3 million people aged between 15 and 24 years are neither employed nor pursuing higher education. Now this means that over half of South Africa's 10 million youth are unemployed, and the nation's overall unemployment rate remains stagnant at a worrying 27.7%. Unemployment in South Africa is more than double the rate of overall unemployment in the country. Now, the question we're asking your viewers today is, are jobless grants the answer for the youth that are unemployed? You're welcome to join in the conversation. Our telephone lines, as usual, are open at 011-542-2186. Would love to hear what you think. Are you unemployed? Are you a youth? Are you at home? What issues are you facing? Go ahead and give us a call and would love to hear from you. In studio, though, I have with me guests. Oliver Dixon is back, socio-political analyst. I also have Jackie Shandu, who is a political analyst. Gentlemen, welcome back to ANN7 Prime. Is this something that is feasible to have jobless grants? Is it something that we can even think of in South Africa? I mean, you have seen the statistics. As I was reading this, I could see you were totally mortified at the numbers that we're looking at here. I'll start with you, Oliver.
I think feasibility of a jobless grant is less a pressing issue as a grant for job seekers in particular. Because the cost of searching for a job is incredibly high in South Africa. The cost of transportation first takes the biggest of that. The fact that a lot of young people, particularly young black people, have to travel from township and rural areas far or
But doesn't the grant take care of that if you're unemployed and then you get that grant?
The grant would serve as the purpose for sustaining your ability to look for a job. But the problem is that maybe there should just be a grant for people who are unable to find jobs completely, because the reality is not everybody who's searching for a job will find a job mathematically, because the number of unemployed people is higher than the number of jobs available. But importantly, the growth in the number of unemployed people is faster than the growth in jobs being created.
Right.
So there's more and more people becoming unemployed. So just mathematically, there will never be hopefully with radical economic transformation, we'll get to a position where job creation, the the rate of growth in job creation is higher than that in the rate of growth in unemployment. Hopefully there won't be a rate of growth in unemployment. So importantly, there are young people who just mathematically will not find a job, and those people need to be taken care of. There's no safety net, as Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma said, for those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where the largest concern is.
Because she speaks of the elders that have the, the pensions that they get, the grants, and then you have the, the children that are born in, desperate situations, disadvantaged homes that get the grants. But the middle, they're lost. They really have no, what would you say, a safety net to speak of. But is this something that, this is the question that we're asking, of course. Of course, NDZ is saying, look, we need to create employment. We need to make sure that, our curriculum in the schools is suited to a point that when they go out there in the job market, they're actually employable.
Sure. Good evening. Look, this speaks to simply a failed economy. Let's stick with statistics for now. South Africa has a tax base of roughly just over 4 million. What that tells you, Audrey, is that in a country with a total population of 55 million, less than 5 million people pay income tax. That gives you the numbers in terms of the huge army of the unemployed. But even in terms of her own articulation, NDZ, in as much as we agree with her broader outlook, we must go even deeper. You know how we conduct statistics in this country is very misleading as well. Because we speak of young people, we speak of the unemployed, and we don't go down in terms of race and gender, which is very critical. Because when you go to the youth unemployment situation in South Africa, you'll be heartbroken to find out that actually when you break it down to race, in the black community, 70% of black youth are unemployed. And in the white community, it's less than 20%.
It's actually, can I just put perspective to that? It's actually 8.3%. That means two out of every young people in South Africa today are unemployed. Out of those 2 out of 3 people, 1 in every 10 is white. That means less than 10% of unemployed people are white. That's to say that 9 out of every 10 unemployed youth are black.
Right.
And that's a scary number.
You see, this is the apologetic nature of the ANC historically when dealing with the problems facing the country. They do not want to expose the gravity and the real nature of the situation. So they will always speak about youth and national unemployment. They will not tell you that in the white community, unemployment, in the white and Indian community, unemployment is as good as non-existent. Right?
Let's get Mlungisi Miezo's perspective, chairperson of RETC. A very good evening to you, Mlungisi. Thank you for joining us. I'm sure you've heard of the statistics that are coming from those, of course, that correlate these numbers. Very alarming. But of course, my studio guests are going even deeper at the root of the problem, also looking at the demographics of these people that are affected as we try to look at the races that are affected by this. What is your take on this? And ultimately, who's responsible for making sure that this gap is filled and there's some kind of transformation going forward?
Thank you very much, Audrey, and thank you very much for the listeners. Basically, while we're looking at the...
Mlungisi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes, I'll just say, with regard to the statistics that we have currently, looking at basically, it takes us back to the dates of apartheid, where we had this gap of oppression. Now we're sitting in a stage where we're still trying to recover from that, but it's going to take us a long time to actually recover from that gap because of the fact that historically, we were not, as black people, we were not allowed to acquire certain skills. Now you find that in some families that there's a first engineer only comes to this particular generation. Now that basically takes us back to the fact that we were not able to actually acquire certain skills that have now taken effect currently. Now, looking at the current employment rate, it's affecting us as a black race because of that previous race card which was played during the apartheid days. And in terms of this giving the youth grant, I would like to think that it would actually have an effect on the youth because if you look at the current statistics, not every youth person is actually looking for a job, as mentioned by one of the studio guests. But we have the youth that is not even looking for jobs. Now, if we provide grants for those people, are we not propelling the usage of drugs or anything of that nature, because we find that some youth actually are indulging in drugs nowadays. And by giving them a grant, we're actually making it easier for them to acquire such substances.
Right, so there has to be some kind of responsibility to it, and of course an assessment. I just wanted to take some views from our callers who are on the line. Zakhele from KwaZulu-Natal, Ivan from Durban, we also see you. Let's just start off with Zakhele. Good evening to you. What are your views?
Yes, how are you?
Very well, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, mina ngicabanga ukuthi ilokhuzana ekhotho mama Nkosazana on yesterday. I think it's correct because if ubheka ilokhuzana agriculture now, uyabona ukuthi uma ngabe uthi into ezolimo imhlaba ayikho kuthina, even ufuna ukuthi wena kukhona mhlawumbe into ongayenza akukho ongakwenza, because if ubuka la KwaZulu Natal nje kukhona usimamisa, if uchecka lo simamisa uonwa yibo onxiwankulu abamhlophe, if uchecka kwabona lo simamisa awuassisting ngalutho thina si-youth. But that's why I support Mama Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. If ungase kulokhuzana agriculture mhlambe kungakwazi ukuthi abanye abantu abasha bekwazi ukubenefita kuona, because lento yama-BE ayisilekeleli ngalutho. That's why I say I'm support Mama Nkosazana. I think it's correct if engaba president ngo-December. I think all these people is poor. I think maybe we are rich next time.
Hi, Ngiyabonga Budwamu for your comment. I certainly appreciate it. Let's hear a comment from Ivan from Durban. Thank you for holding. We have lost Ivan there, but just people seem to not be agreeing with this grant. I mean, there's not everyone out there who's looking for a job. That's what one of our callers is saying.
Just quickly, to look for a job is incredibly expensive. This is why not everyone out there who's unemployed is looking for a job. They don't have the resources. So on an average day, if you were to be an active job seeker in South Africa, to be a job seeker is actually a job in and of itself. You'd have to travel to the inner city every single day. That's traveling costs ranging anything between 50 to 100 Rand per day. Aggregate that over a 20-day working month, that's 2,000 Rand. As a young person, 2,000 Rand you don't have. Yeah,
that's something that we can all relate to. I mean, just typing out your CV and going to the internet and trying to find...
Think about the cost of that. Yes. So you're looking at a personal cost of about 4,000 to 5,000 Rand to just look for a job. So a grant that can cover that, that can cushion that, will go a long way to getting young people to actually getting jobs. However, we must caution against this because, importantly, there are far less jobs available than there are young people out there, right? And the young people are unemployed.
But that's what I want to speak to Oliver, to say, let's have a proper, comprehensive diagnosis of the problem. The problem is that you have a colonial economy that was maintained by Mandela and Mbeki, which is structured in this way that it's not going to create jobs. If you study the economy of South Africa from 1994 up until now, it has been shedding jobs instead of creating new jobs.
No, certainly.
Why? Because of its structure. Now, in principle, we agree with this. In fact, Brazil and other Latin American countries have done this as an immediate intervention. But we need to say, as a 5-year intervention, we'll have this thing. What we will do, how Brazil did it, they said, okay, we'll create even more grants, and the EFF is big on this. It was part of the founding manifesto of the EFF, which is still a beautiful document. So what you do is you create these grants, you even double the grants, because this child support grants of 350 is just an insult on our people. Make them 1,000 rands and so on and so forth for a 5-year plan. And then what you do, you restructure the economy. You industrialize, you create millions of sustainable jobs. You then have a database of these people who are grant recipients. And you have a strategy of skilling them and moving them within a 5-year, 10-year period.
Yeah.
From being grant
recipients we need to take a caller.
Being employees.
Yes, we need to take... Ivan is back from Durban. Thank you for coming back to us. Please share with us your views.
Hi, good afternoon. Good evening to you.
Yes, very good evening to you. Please go ahead.
I totally disagree with this. So, you know, we're talking about radical economic transformation and et cetera, et cetera. What she's actually saying is that the youngsters must remain in poverty because if you look at a grant, even the grant that has been given now to single mothers, it's minimum. And so what we were saying is instead of giving a grant create jobs so that our youth can earn a decent living. You know what Nkosazana Dlamini needs to do? She needs to explain exactly how she's going to execute radical economic transformation. Because it's one thing talking about radical economic transformation. It's in the last 23 years we've been in a democratic government. We've seen no radical economic transformation. And basically what they're saying is they want to kill the goose that lays the golden egg. We're going to end up another Zimbabwe if we don't. It's not about being the president of the country. It's about serving the people. It's about giving the people what they want. It's about ensuring that people's lives are better, not by grants, by creating jobs, by making sure that our young people are in a position to live a decent life. And that is basically what we're saying. All the other things, you know, if you look at the state SOEs that have been in disarray, all that money that has been misused could have been used for job creation.
Yeah, well, I suppose to grow jobs, we also have to grow the economy, and there's a lot of factors that are affecting the economy right now. There's issues of investor strike that is being spoken about, and, you know, a lot of factors that we need to peel that and see how we get to the bottom of it. Vincent from Mapopane, your views. Very good evening to you.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
I'm doing well. First of all, I would like to appreciate an opportunity to be speaking. I actually want to agree with Evan, the guy who was just speaking right now, that I'm a young man in Pretoria, and what we've been doing as young people is we've been trying to also engage in farming, doing a lot of things that we can do, because we're also qualified and we're not getting jobs, we're not getting anywhere, and I can tell you that grants won't do for us, because I don't want to be earning a grant now when I'm 30 years, and then come 2050, then I'll still be earning grants and going nowhere, having achieved nothing. So what I think needs to be done is that we support radical economic transformation with all our hearts. What we want to do is we are solely behind Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, and we want her to push. We are assuring her that as young people here, if she can just give out a word, we'll mobilize. We are enough of this situation of poverty and unemployment, whereas a few minority are just privileged there at their corner. So what we are saying is that push Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, we are waiting for you, and we are going to back you up. Amanda.
Vincent, thank you so much for your views. We certainly appreciate it. Vincent there from Mapopane. Very strong views there that are coming from our callers. I suppose also having to needing a new model to grow employment. Yeah. How do we get around that? Or perhaps we need to get Mlungisi. I hope you're still with us. Would you like to chip in there?
With regard to, in Zulu there's a saying that says, now, which basically means that how will you actually achieve while you're basically sitting and waiting for something to land on your lap. Now, with regards to the current situation that we're facing is that as this grant or this proposed grant issue, I would say that by actually giving this grant to the youth, we basically are killing those skills, because now we basically are putting money in their hands, and that money, we are not sure if it's going to be utilized in the correct manner. Now, with regards to that, I'd rather propose that we basically create a subsidy that would basically be channeled in towards creating free quality education. And also
but Mlungisi, I suppose the question is, how do you put the youth on a level playing field with those that can afford to go out there and job hunt, and those that really cannot afford to even put together a CV, you know, go into an internet cafe and you know, go and have an interview conducted? How do you put everyone on a level playing field?
You basically cut me off. I was actually going towards that. But we also create, in terms of youth centers, with regards to, instead of giving them funds, rather use those funds to actually create youth centers where youth can actually have internet access and be able to print their CVs and update their CVs and be taught these business skills and to be taught interview etiquette. Because if we get people that are skill centers that can assist in that, run by the government, then and bring them to the society, closer to the societies, then we basically be having youth centers that be empowering our youth. Instead of giving them money, you'd be empowering them with the skills and with the accessibility to these facilities that they can actually print their CVs, access internet where they can search for jobs and apply online.
Audrey.
Yes. Mlungisi, my guests in studio just want to respond to you there. If you can just give us a minute.
Let's not misdiagnose the issue, as has been the case in this country for so long. This rhetoric of, what is it, structural unemployment is nonsense. That there's a mismatch between the skills that the economy is looking for and those that are. That is absolute nonsense. Personally, I can point you to more than 10 friends who are qualified engineers, who are black PhD in natural sciences.
But Jackie, why do we have the Home Affairs Department that is taking people from other countries that have critical skills to come into South Africa?
It's a very good question.
No. Wait. Even that is a misdiagnosed problem, because that is what perpetuates the narrative of they are taking our jobs. It's not true that that's the case with foreign nationals. In the instances where foreign nationals do occupy jobs in South Africa, it is in the teaching sector because there's a shortage of teachers. So we look to neighboring countries. It's an instance where there's a shortage of specific engineering skills. So we look to our neighboring countries. But importantly, a lot of foreign nationals in South Africa who are earning a living do so almost always at their own peril, with their own resources and establishing businesses of their own. That's always been the case. So there's no such thing as Department of Home Affairs not taking that serious. But importantly, with regards to the structural nature of unemployment, it's just like this problem is so interlinked, because apartheid spatial planning is what continues to make it difficult for young people to enter the job market. It is incredibly difficult to travel from far ends of Diepsloot to go have a job in Fourways, to travel from the far ends of Soweto to have a job in Centurion.
But Oliver, even those who are able to travel, I have to stress this point, even those who are in Sandton, wherever, who have access to internet, can't find jobs. Yeah, even those who have master's qualifications, even PhDs, can't find jobs. We are speaking with an economy that cannot create jobs. Why? Because we were told we must look to investors to invest, and no FDI came in. We embarked in self-imposed structural adjustment.
Let's hear what Nozipho from Soweto has to say. Nozipho, very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, ma'am, and everyone in your studio. I'm thinking grants for the unemployed is rubbish. Reason why I'm saying that, there are thousands of us black South Africans who went to school, we are still sitting without employment, yet our government is getting all the riches that are lepapa phezulu. Ima-grant for thina nidlala ngathi boba basibopha tandla basivala nengqondo. Meanwhile bona baqhubeka badla umnotho wale country. Sifuna i-economy la whereby everyone is able to participate in.
Yeah.
Bangasibambi itandla bangadlali ngathi sifuna umsebenzi abasivulele the right channel ukuthi sithole umsebenzi. Hayi bona kuphela nemafemeli abo.
Yeah, thank you for those views. I know Zipho, they're phoning us from Johannesburg. But how do we get to a point where we create people, entrepreneurs, and not just job seekers? Because that's also very important.
This thing of creating entrepreneurs is an overstated issue, as though young black people are not creating business. They are, and they're once again being stifled by a system that doesn't want young black participants into the economy. But importantly, these very same companies who make it unable for black businesses to compete are the same companies not employing and reinvesting into black talent. So multinational corporations would rather divert their dividends back to their parent company in a foreign country than to reinvest that money and those profits and dividends into creating more jobs.
Case in point, Panama Papers.
Yeah, and the government hasn't actually done a lot of work to encourage them to reinvest money to create more jobs. And
to also grow the economy. Very important. Jackie, last remark.
These people who arrest jobs are the same people that Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma spoke about last night, who ran the monopoly industries. She made examples, and I can even extend. Construction sector, Big 5. Audit industry, Big 4. Law profession, Big 4. Food retail. The Competition Commission, as we speak, is probing that Pick and Pay, Woolworths, Spar, and Checkers, just 4, control more than 90% of the food retail market. And you want to say, black entrepreneurs, there is no space. This is a government. Why? Because so many NEC members of the ANC are non-executive directors of JSE listed companies.
Exactly. Those the same KPMGs.
that they can't
Gentlemen,
change
this
the laws
conversation will have
create
to continue offline. Thank you so much for your contributions. Our Twitter handle at ANN7TV. We couldn't take all our callers. If you had your contribution, you can always find us there. Let me take this opportunity to thank my guests, Jackie Shandri, political analyst, and Oliver Dixon, socio-political analyst. We also had Mlungi Simzeo, chairperson of RETC. To all our callers, thank you so much for participating. This is ANN7 Prime. Do stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.